Food security. This is going to give you leisure time. This is going to allow you to think and plan. But you're going to need to think and plan a lot to get food security. I say number one, but it's really number two. But number one is number two, and that's water. You have no food security without water. You're not going to have any life or anything to eat without water. So it's almost like a given that you've got to have water. But water is really number one. Food is number two. Number three. Number three is actually um, very complicated. It's probably different for different people, but you're probably going to need socialization. You're going to need friends, family, people, connections. No human is even sane by themselves. When they put people in solitary confinement, people go insane. So. Oh man, I've had the microphone muted this whole time. I'm glad you said something. I really said all that about Julius Caesar and had the mic muted the whole time. I'm sorry about that. Dang, I didn't know I was muted. Well, I was talking about how the Gauls had sacked Rome in its early days, killed all the men of military age and the elders. And Rome wanted revenge on the Gauls. So when Julius Caesar was enslaving and killing, he killed 1 million, enslaved 1 million, and ruled over 1 million Gauls, the Romans liked it. They liked that their debts were being paid by Julius Caesar. They liked that all the aristocracy that pretty much had enslaved everyone and used slave labor to put everybody out of the workforce. None of the free men could afford to live anymore. They were having to sell themselves off into slavery. So they were like, so what if Julius Caesar kills all these Gauls and takes their plunder and pays our debts and sets us free and strengthens the currency? And a lot of these Gauls get pushed into Britain, but some of these Gauls go to the Senate. They're in the Senate of Rome. And Julius Caesar forgive everybody that's going to stab him in the back later. And his nephew isn't about that. He kills his enemies. He destroys his enemies. And he stays in power and doesn't get stabbed to death either. But he also doesn't go after Parthia. Parthia and Rome fight each other and make themselves weak, and this lets the Muslims come in and take it all over. It's a good thing that we come up with a really good navy. We'd have been done for. They used to enslave people. It's just like a forgotten history. It's something that's not really talked about. Europe doesn't really want to talk about their humiliation, so no one's ever really taught about it. But all along the southern coast of the Mediterranean and all around up into England and all over it, the Muslims had a powerful navy, and they were like pirates. They'd raid all the cities, and they would steal so many women and carry them off. And people forget about this. And people don't realize how much this shifted the genetics of the people in the area. But, they would eventually, because of this is why the Roman Empire fell. All the blame goes to the Germans. And the Germans are a symptom. They're not the main cause. The only reason the Germans are coming in and defeating the Romans is because the Muslims have already made the Mediterranean Sea impassable. See, this is what Rome really controlled. This was the real Roman Empire. It was the Mediterranean. It was controlling the sea, and they had lost control of it. The Muslims controlled it. It wasn't safe to transport goods from Spain to Italy or England to Italy. That's why England had to be abandoned. That's why you couldn't move things from Palestine to Italy. Everything now had to go by land. And they try to nowadays blame the Dark Ages solely on Christianity. But I'll tell you why it was the Dark Ages. Because the economy was wrecked. Because you couldn't travel and you couldn't ship anything cheap anymore. And you had a bunch of states where there used to just be one. So now everyone becomes impoverished. And then the Germans come in and they destroy the aqueducts. Let your light shine, faith, message retracted. All right then. Are you a teacher? Not at a school, no. I just like to learn. But you see, what I was saying before, this is really, they say the Germans defeated Rome, but they were only able to do what they done because the Muslims defeated Rome. The Mediterranean Sea wasn't safe for travel, and you had to trade by land where it cost way more money to move with an ox cart and way slower than to go by boat. By boat, you could zip resources around from Jordan or Turkey, or, they were moving from India to Egypt and then from Egypt to Italy. All that's gone now. You can't get tin out of Britain. That's why Rome pulls out of Britain and the Germans are able to come into Britain. This is why Rome doesn't have the economy it once had. It can't summon the manpower it used to be able to summon. And then the Germans are coming in. But really, the Muslims defeated Rome. And then the Germans come in and take, and then they say the Germans defeated Rome. But it was really, Rome was based around that sea, and they lost that sea. No. And that's just kind of forgotten about. And they were really on a winning streak for a long, long time. Had some very, very, very courageous generals and people. There's a tale, I don't know if it's true or not, but they were saying that in Spain there was this soldier and he was crying, and they asked him why he was crying. And it was because he missed. He was shooting the enemy and the arrow missed, and he cried about it. And then later on, before the Reconquest, there was this boy, and he asked him, this Muslim boy, he's like, why are you crying? He said, my girlfriend left me. And that's when they fall. Because there's a difference in the people that's been, hanging out in Spain, eating pork, drinking alcohol. Those Muslims ain't the same that come in before. And the Crusaders that are coming back with a vengeance out of France and into Spain, and remembering the horrors and what they had to deal with Charles Martel, how quickly they almost lost all of Europe. Nations start off with a lot of cultural outbursts. They have a lot of vigor. They have a collective story and they have a mission, and their culture expands really fast. Before they even become a military power, they start off as a cultural power. And then they transition into a military power. After they're a military power for long enough, this allows them to have economic advantages. And this is where they start to go into science and into art. But then they go into excess. They go into perversion and corruption. And they atrophy and they get weak because there's safety and there's abundance. They don't have the same hunger. They don't have the same vitality. And then there's normally someone somewhere starving and very, very hungry, looking at this fattened calf, this lazy, slothful society. And, like the Mongolians looking at the decadent Chinese, or the Arabs looking at the decadent Romans and Parthians. You see this over and over and over again in history, a cycle, because humans stay the same, and they don't learn from their mistakes, and they don't learn from the advice of others. They learn the hard way. And it just cycles on and on and on. Chaos, anarchy, tyrants, republics, democracy, anarchy, just cycling back and forth. Masculine society, egalitarian society, feminine society, collapse, masculine society. It just swings back and forth. By nature, humans, we're a patriarchal species. We're polydimorphic. There's a difference between the two genders. There's different roles to where you have the most efficiency. And then people get all kind of ideas and try to deny nature. They try to try communism one more time, try feminism one more time. But it's going to collapse. It starts over. Because you can't have a society that doesn't favor merit. It's just like everybody be the same. Let's all be egalitarian and let's be effeminate. That has positive birth rates. They never have enough children to sustain themselves. Only patriarchal societies have birth rates high enough to sustain themselves. So you can go and try all that stuff when you're very powerful and rich and you feel safe to explore and try all kind of new ideas. You can try to rebel against nature. But while you do that, you have negative birth rates, and somebody over there that's just being what humans are, patriarchal, they're having more children. They're going to out-reproduce you, and they're going to take everything you have. And then you have masculine nations send out colonies, feminine nations take in colonies. They get colonized. And it's a cycle. And I don't know that we can ever break it or that we ever are going to. It's just all kind of animals experiencing universe. You would thank you for that. Hey, everybody. Hey. Now, it's getting kind of late for me because I got to get up early for work. And also, I don't want Brittany to be all sad and lonely. She's like about to be on her period and everything. But y'all have a good night. And I'll make a few more history videos. I might script them, make them a little better than this one. Good night. God bless y'all. Peace. I'm trying to hit that exit. There we go. Good night, y'all.